Hi, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode. Today, I have a special guest on. Her name is Mary, and we're going to be talking about intentional living and minimalism. And I'm happy to have Mary on. She had a changing point in her life when she got a health diagnosis that kind of changed her whole mindset about intentional living. And I want her to share with you. I think there's a lot of practical tips and little nuggets, and she just has a very inspiring story. So hi, Mary. I'm so happy to have you on here.
Hi, Anya. I'm so happy to be on with you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Yes. So can you share your story? What happened when you got that health diagnosis and how that triggered you to change your entire living situation, pretty much?
Yeah, absolutely. So 3 years ago, I had two children under the age of 5 and worked full time. And when I say full time, I mean like usually 50 to 70 hours a week. Was a total workaholic. I was also a shopaholic and ended up about 3 years ago getting a not a diagnosis, but the doctors basically said, hey, you need to go and have some testing done. We think that you might have cancer. And they did the testing and it showed a 90% chance of cancer. And I'm not a betting person, but if I was, I would say that is not a very good odd in my favor. So decided to have surgery. I'll go ahead and tell you it was not cancer. I ended up being fine. However, it was one of those things that really shook me. I lost my mom to cancer. She passed away back in 2001. And so early on, I had already, really seen how precious life is and you're not promised tomorrow. But I really felt like I got away from that when I was doing well in the corporate world. And it's like the better you do, the more you feel like, oh, well, I should buy this. I should get the bigger house. I should do all of these things. And I really just got wrapped up in that. And this was kind of that reminder when the doctors were saying like, hey, you probably have cancer. And that you never want to hear that about yourself, obviously, but it just made me step back and think like, if I'm spending all my time working so hard, what is the point of it all? Like I don't even really have the opportunity to sit back and enjoy it and to enjoy my time with my young children and my husband because I was constantly working or preparing to go back to work. And so my husband and I started talking about like, what if we just had a total life change? We were in the DC area. And so, it's, I don't want to say rat race, but kind of a rat race. Like, everybody's working and it's just go, 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 go. There's traffic everywhere. It's just, there's a lot of busyness. And we said, what if we just moved maybe to like the beach? And so the seed was planted and we kind of talked about it. And then fast forward many months later, I had the surgery and found out that I was fine, thankfully. But we still kept talking about it. And I guess it was right about 11 months after that initial doctor's appointment, I got to go on a trip out to Hawaii with some friends. And when I was out there, I just felt so free. I didn't have any of my stuff. I just had people with me who I loved. And we were outside all the time and just enjoying nature and being active. And I just thought, you know what? This is really all that I need. I don't need to make lots of money. I don't need to have lots of stuff. I don't need to have a big house. I don't need a fancy car. We've got to do this. And so literally in Hawaii, I called my husband. His name is Sean. And Sean, he's a real estate agent. So I'm like, honey, I need you to find us a house and it needs to be down in Florida because that's where it's warm year round. Because I want to be able to be outside and do all this fun stuff with our family anytime we want to. And that set the ball in motion. And 4.5 months later, we moved to Florida.
Wow. Wow. So first off, I'm so glad you were okay. And, that really is like, Yeah, totally. I mean, I can't believe how fast you acted and decided, okay, this is what we're going to do. And was your husband on board right away, or how did he feel about it?
So at first he thought I was a little crazy. Granted, we'd been talking about moving to the beach, and so he got it. But we'd actually never talked about Florida. We are from the East Coast, so we kind of looked all the way from Virginia Beach down to Georgia beaches, but never further south. And he started looking at the area that I was talking about, which I'd actually learned about through someone I met in Hawaii. And he realized that they have phenomenal fishing, and he loves to fish.
He was
And
sold, right?
so that actually helped put him over the edge. And fortunately, the way that technology is now, like even though he was a realtor in Virginia, he could still work with his clients there. And so, like, yeah, you've got to travel. I didn't know if I was going to have a job, but we decided to downsize enough that if we had to live off of savings for a while, we could do that. We were getting into a much, much smaller house with just smaller living expenses and everything that comes with it, so that we could really do more living and less working.
Mm. And then did you bring all your belongings, or did you already start selling and getting rid of stuff before the move?
No, so we got rid of so much stuff. So to put a percentage on it, 75% is what I typically say is what we have gotten rid of at this point. I think at this point it's more than that, because I continue to declutter and not bring more stuff in. But as soon as we decided that we were going to do it, we found the house, we went under contract. And when I got back to our house, like people didn't know that we were moving yet. We waited to announce it, but they were like, what on earth is up with this girl? Because every single day I was posting multiple things on Facebook Marketplace. This was during COVID. And so, like it was a little interesting having people come by to pick stuff up, but donation after donation, like the Salvation Army truck would pull up thinking that they were getting 15 boxes. And instead, sorry, I've got 30 boxes of stuff for you. So you have, it's so expensive to move, especially it was 1,000 miles away for us. So we had to really decide, like, do we want to pay to move a lot of this stuff, or does it make sense to get rid of it beforehand? So we did a lot of that first.
Yeah, it's so smart, but a lot of people, and I know from my own experience, because I moved a couple times in my life, international move, cross-country moves. But sometimes when you know you're going to move, it's like there's so much you have to do that a couple times I just took everything with me, because I'm like, oh, I'm going to deal with it later, because it seems so overwhelming to plan a move, especially if it's across states, and at the same time get rid of stuff. But just so we have an idea, like, how big was your house before and how big is your house now?
So the house before was over 6,000 square feet.
Wow.
It was 6 bedrooms, 5.5 baths. There were 2 playrooms. One was like the entire basement, not the basement storage area, but the finished area. There were only 4 of us. Like we literally couldn't even use the whole house. Had a couple of guest rooms, like more bathrooms than people was a little extreme, is what I realized for us personally, just with what we value. The house that we moved into, which is actually not our house now, we've since turned it into a rental house, but our first house was 1,500 square feet. So literally 25% of the size of the original house. Right now we're in about 1,700 square feet. So slightly larger. We wanted a bigger yard and a pool. We realized it would be nice.
Oh yeah, in South Florida. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's been great with the kids.
So now on Instagram, you share all these tips about minimalism and decluttering. So not only did you downsize, but then how did you start tackling, like, what areas of your life? And you said you were a shopaholic before. Like, are you still a shopaholic? I assume no, because you're getting rid of stuff, or how does it look?
So I spent about 4 solid months decluttering our house before we moved. And I literally didn't even have time to shop during that because I was either working my full-time job, which happened to be remote at the time just because of COVID. Normally I was in person. And then I would be with the kids. And then as soon as they would be in bed, I'd say, all right, peace out, honey. I got to head down to the basement and work on decluttering and getting rid of stuff. Um, and so during that time, I was not shopping. But then once we moved down here, I realized that, well, I didn't realize it yet. I started getting back to my old ways. I was like, okay, well, now we live down here at the beach. So I need to buy bathing suits, even though I already had plenty. I need to buy more tank tops, even though I already had plenty of them. I started accumulating more things. And also like the home decor, that's always been a weakness for me. I love decorating. And I started getting back into those old habits. I was buying, buying, buying. Some of the time I would end up realizing I bought stuff that I didn't need and I would return. Other times I didn't return it in time. So I ended up with the stuff that I didn't need. And that, I'm not sure when exactly, but at some point during all this, I had kind of this self wake up call, like you are literally going to put yourself back where you were before with just accumulating a bunch of stuff that you don't need. And the way that my mind works is, okay, well, if I'm filling up all these closets and all this storage space, that must mean we need a bigger house. Like, so I was like, hold on, like, you can't do this again, because if you have the bigger house, you're going to have to work harder and work more to make more money to pay for it. And I would literally repeat the cycle. So I would still call myself a shopaholic just because that tendency is there for me. But by having worked so hard to declutter, that was the most impactful thing to help me with breaking my shopping habit, because I didn't want to go back. I did not want to repeat the cycle. And at this point, I try to be really intentional with every single thing that comes into my house, whether I'm paying for it or it's something that's for free or a gift, whatever it is, and really make sure that it belongs here, because I don't want to have to make decisions later about how to declutter it. And I don't want to have to figure out where to store it. So it really has to be something that I'm going to use or love, or obviously someone in my family is going to either use or love. And
That's
it's
so
not
cool.
perfect,
Yeah.
definitely not perfect, especially with the kids. You know, they get all the free stuff from the
Oh,
birthday
yeah.
parties and the treasure box at school, because they're little, they're 7 and 4. But we've made such big strides. Like our life is so different now. It's hardly
Yeah, and I
recognizable.
think it's easier to really rethink before you make a purchase instead of later going through everything, because then it quickly feels overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
So did you end up quitting your job? Like, are you stay at home mom now, or do you still work?
Yes, I actually still work full time. I'm on my
Oh,
lunch
you
break right
do?
now.
Oh,
I do.
wow.
Yeah. I ended up more or less quitting my job, but basically I'd been there for a long time and had a really good, respectful relationship with my manager and my peers, and just let them know what we were doing. You know, this was really an opportunity for us to realign our life with our values and wanting to spend time with our children while they were young. Certainly the people that I worked with knew that I had just had this health scare and had gone through surgery. And I think that they could appreciate where I was coming from. And so they were very understanding and actually offered me a similar type of role down here in Florida. But I knew that that would be too similar, because I would still be working a ton of hours, and my workaholic nature, I I always want to do the best that I can and the best that I could for my clients. And I really needed to take a step back. And so I got lucky. They created a position for me where I can work from home 100% of the time. And I'm kind of more behind the scenes instead of, I used to be in sales and now I support people who are in sales. So it's been very different. I certainly don't make the same kind of money, but I also don't have the same kind of hours. And for me, it was more about my time than anything else.
Good for you. That sounds like the perfect setup. You get to be home, you still have your job, and you live by the beach. So how has your
Yes.
day-to-day lifestyle changed now? Do
Oh
you
gosh,
go to the beach all the
completely.
time? Yeah.
I try to, yeah, so we live about half a mile from the beach. And so I try to walk to the beach more days than not. It's not always a beach day by any means. It's not like I'm sitting out there with my
Yeah.
umbrella and a pina colada, although I enjoy those days. Certainly when it's a little bit warmer, we do a lot of beach days with the family. But I am here, first of all, in the morning when my kids wake up. And I used to have a lot of days where I had to be out the door before they were even awake, and my husband would have to get them ready and take them to daycare. I work from home all day, but I'm able to take a break to go on walks. That's one of my favorite things to do. I also practice yoga, usually at least once a week, which has been really nice to have just that stillness and opportunity to tune in to my body as well as my mind and everything else. I work outside a lot. So yesterday, I think I spent about 8 hours sitting out on our lanai, which for anyone who's not familiar with Florida lingo, that's basically like your back porch, if you will. It's a screened-in area for us, so there aren't bugs. So being outside has been really nice. And then when my kids come home, I'm also here for that, which I used to miss seeing them many evenings because I would be doing, dinner meetings and things like that. And, sometimes there were days I didn't get to see my kids at all. And now I'm here in the morning. I'm here to help them with their homework in the evening and get some cuddles in and get them ready for bed. And then of course the weekends, we don't spend our weekends decluttering anymore because that's done, and we don't have a maid anymore like we did with the big house, but I enjoy cleaning my house. We don't have a lot of clutter, obviously. That's the whole part of the point for us. But it also, even though not our whole house hasn't been updated, some of it's original to this 1980s house, having the opportunity to take care of it myself gives me the chance to feel contentment like I've never felt before. And that's actually been one of the most beautiful things about this whole journey is that I no longer feel like I've got to be constantly improving every area of my life. I don't need to be working to get a bigger house, working to get a better car, working to buy more fancier clothes or the next best thing, fill in the blank. None of that. All of it, I'm just, our bathroom is old and it's got these drop down fluorescent lights. And there's one wall that has an outlet where you can plug in like 10 things at one time, which I'm not really sure why that's there. Like there's so many things that the old me would have been like, I'm not even living there until I change it. And the new me is like, you know what? I'm going to do what I can to take care of this. And at some point we plan to remodel our bathroom, but for now I'm content with it just as it is.
Yeah, that's so beautiful and so important. Like you found that inner peace, you are not looking for like the material stuff to make you feel better and distract you,
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
absolutely. Distraction is such a good word. That living with less, and I did not mean to become a minimalist. Like this was by accident. I know
And
I've got like
just
this
so,
Instagram page.
just so the listeners know, when we talk about minimalism, it's not like the bare bones, nothing in your house minimalism. It's just like being organized and not having clutter everywhere, knowing where things are, that kind of minimalism, right?
Yeah, yeah. And being intentional. I think being intentional with everything that's in your home, everything that's on your schedule. When you reached out to me about this podcast, how you phrased it and wanting to share this message, I thought, you know what, this would be a really good use of that time. And there are other people who have reached out and I'm like, no, they're kind of, they've got a different angle on it. So you've got to really be intentional about everything in your life, both what's coming in as well as, what's just around you.
That's so good for you and so inspiring, because I feel like, especially as women and moms, we always feel like, there's endless activities we could sign our kids up for. There's endless things that we could be doing, like sports and hobbies, remodeling projects around the house. I feel like it takes so much strength to say, no, we are not doing this. No, we are not going to 4 birthday parties. no, we are not traveling every long weekend because it's just like, it's endless. And then everyone is
Yeah.
tired and stressed out and yeah. And then also, you know, it's very expensive to live that kind of lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're so right, Anya, about just the pressure that moms feel to do all the things and to have their kids do all the things. And I think it really does, just like you said, take a lot of strength to say no and be protective of your family and your schedules so that you can really do what matters most to you and spend the time with the people who matter the most. And unfortunately, that means saying no sometimes.
Yeah. But the more you do it, it becomes easier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so what are like, so if someone is like, I don't know where to start, like I have so much stuff, I don't even know. Do you have any tips? Like, what is the first thing? Because I know from my personal life, sometimes it's so overwhelming. You have like a garage full of stuff and you don't even know where to begin. So you just shut the door and you postpone the project. But what is like little steps, like which area of the house do you think is easiest to tackle, and then you see the results and you get excited and take on the next? Do you have any like tips on that?
Yeah, definitely. And on my page, Minimalism with Mary, I do have like a whole highlight about how to get started, but just kind of a few tidbits. So I think the most important thing before you even decide where you're going to start is figuring out why you want to declutter. What is it about living with less and getting the clutter out that really speaks to you? And for me, it was wanting to have my time back. I don't want to always be working and taking care of all of my stuff, so that I could spend time with my family and spend more time outdoors doing what's more important to me. What's important to you? Figure that out, because the thing about decluttering is it's not always easy. And there are going to be times when you probably are going to want to throw in the towel and just be done with the whole thing. And so being able to come back to your why and have a vision for what you want for your life and the feelings that you want to feel. For me, the overriding feeling was freedom, time freedom, any type of freedom you can think of. So even just having like that word that you can keep coming back to, I think is the most important thing. And once you have that, I would say that typically there are kind of two methodologies with how to start. And you pick whichever one speaks to you. The first would be to pick the area in your home that bothers you the most, but start small. So for me, I spend a ton of time just in our main area, which includes our kitchen. And if we have a bunch of stuff on our kitchen counters, that's going to drive me crazy and I'm not going to be able to focus. And so I might prioritize clearing off all the flat surfaces in my kitchen. So that would be an example. But a lot of the time it will be wherever you spend the most time might be where you want to start. Now, the second way to start is, if you've really never decluttered before and it's just a very overwhelming feeling, is to start with a small area that really is not emotional. And so
That's
examples,
great advice. Yeah.
So examples would be under either the kitchen sink or the bathroom sink. Because really there's probably not a lot of stuff that you look at and you're like, oh my goodness, this fond memory.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's probably cleaners and dental floss and stuff.
Yeah.
And anything that has expired or is no longer in working condition, go ahead and trash it, recycle, trash, whatever works for that object. And then next is, what are you not currently using, or what have you not used in whatever period of time? I think it depends on the area, but it might be, have you used this in the last 3 months? Well, if you haven't, are you going to use it in the next 3 months? And if the answer is no, you can probably go ahead and get rid of that. One quick side tip that I'll share with you real fast is there's a 20/20 rule. So I don't know if you've heard of this before. It has nothing to do with your eyesight. It's not that 20/20. But if you can replace an item in 20 minutes or less for $20 or less, if you're not currently using it, feel free to go ahead and declutter that item out of your life. because it is quickly and easily replaced. So
Oh, that's
if you
such,
do end up needing it,
yeah, I like
you can
that.
go out and get it. And you can change the 2020 if you have to drive 45 minutes to the closest store to be able to replace it, then maybe it's 45 minutes is your time frame for being able to replace it. And if you are tight on cash, maybe it's only $10 that you would be willing to replace. If you're not tight on cash, maybe it's $40 or $50. So you can really personalize it to you, but 2020 is a pretty common rule that you'll hear in this world, just as a way of saying, you don't have to hang on to all of these just in case
Mhm.
or what if items. You can go ahead and get them out, pass them on to somebody who can use them. And then if you do need them, you can replace them pretty quickly and easily and without a lot of expense.
That's so awesome. I have one last area that I want to tackle. So the consumerism, all the emails you get in the mail constantly, all like the trips to Target where there's like all the seasonal decor, like how do you handle that? Do you unsubscribe from all the emails so you don't get the sale emails, or do you online shop? Do you not walk into a Target anymore? Like, how can you
So I
help?
do still go to Target, just to go ahead and address that. But I will go in with blinders on. Seriously, like the dollar section, you first walk into Target and they've got that dollar section and they always have such cute stuff. And I might throw a glance over there, but more often than not, I'm just going to kind of keep the blinders on and I'm going to walk right past. And I really try to go specifically to the areas that have what I need. But if I do see a temptation, one of my favorite techniques is to take a photo of it if it's not something that I was planning on buying. And I leave it at that. I walk away, but I see if I continue to think about that item. And if I'm still thinking about it a week later and I just love it and I know exactly how I'm going to use it or where I'm going to use it, I'll go back and get it. But there have been so many times where I end up deleting that photo off my phone weeks later because I never thought about it again. And I just saved myself that money and something else that I would have to declutter. To go back to the part about all the emails and everything. So my favorite tool that I've actually used this before I even started my minimalism journey is called unroll.me. So it's a website, it's a free service, but it's unroll, UNROLL.me, me. And you basically link it to your email account and it will put anything that it perceives as potential junk mail in there. And then you can go through all at once. They just send you one daily email instead of getting it from these 82 different stores and whatnot. You go through all at once and you can say, I'm going to keep it in this email, so it's going to stay in the Unroll Me, or you can unsubscribe and they will actually take care of unsubscribing for you. Or if it's something that's important that you need to come to your inbox, you can select that as well. So such a cool tool, unroll.me.
Wow.
And then for all the physical stuff, I actually did a post on this just recently. I don't even remember all the sources, so I'll have to go check it out. But unsubscribe from the catalogs. I want to say it's like catalogchoice.com. So I got them from J. Crew and Bowden and Ballard and Serena and Lily, like all of these different catalogs. And finally I said, you know what? I'm just going to take 10 minutes and go through and see how many I can unsubscribe from. And it takes a little while, but it will work. And they've got them for like the blue Valpak mailers that go out, as well as all of the other junk mail fillers that you can do. Most of them are free. They'll accept donations. But to me, the most important thing is to not bring them into your house if you don't need them, and don't even open the catalogs if you don't need anything. Just stick them in the recycling. But part of my minimalism journey personally has been the environmental aspect, where I want to live lighter on the earth, to leave it as good, if not better, for my children and our children as possible. And so I would much rather unsubscribe from all of these so that they're not even being produced and sent out and wasting all of those resources. But
Yeah.
definitely just avoid the temptations. Don't look at the emails. Don't go to the websites. Don't open the catalogs. And if there are stores where you just simply can't walk in and be strong enough to say no and walk out empty handed, don't even put yourself in that position.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And it's not, a lot of people think like minimalism or like intentional living. It's not like you never buy anything. It's more like you buy what you need and you still buy like quality, but you don't buy just because it's the week before Easter and Target is full of Easter decor, right?
Yeah,
That's pretty much,
absolutely.
yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. That was really great. Thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing your story. And let us know what's the easiest way to reach out to you. I guess it's Instagram, right?
Yep, I am on Instagram as minimalism with Mary underscores in between each word.
Yeah,
So
I will put
minimalism
it
with
in the
Mary,
show
come see
notes.
me.
Yeah, because there's so many really helpful tips. I've been following you for a while, so I'm definitely going to share that. So yeah, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for taking the time and spending your lunch break with me.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure. I really appreciate you having me on and helping to get the word out. It's nice living with less.
Yeah.
Less is more.